on this mountain to the white light on my street. From picking on this old banjo, the guitar sitting on my knee. Yeah. For the love and respect of the music, this is bridging the gap. For the love and respect of the music, this is bridging the gap.
Hi, my name is John Acuse. I'm the host for Bridging the Gap. Here on the show, we want to bridge that gap of respect and understanding from bluegrass, country, blues, rock and roll, and heavy metal. Today, we're all about the rock and roll, the 80s rock and roll. There are many, many great bands to come out of that time, that decade of music. That's why there's such a big cult following, if you will. Today, we're going to be discussing GNR and Twisted Sister, Guns N' Roses. Twisted Sister, I want to start with them. They originally started as kind of like a glitter band, if you will. They were called Silver Star. That was from 72 to 74, and they originally were up north near Jersey. And later on, once the time went on, they wanted to relocate to Long Island, New York. And later on, they changed their name to Twisted Sister. In their early years, about 78 in that ballpark, they at that time had not released an album just yet. They started playing in bars, not necessarily bars, but little clubs, little places. In '82, they released their first album. The first album was called Under the Blade, which a lot of their hit songs actually started in that album, that general ballpark. One thing that I've always loved about Twisted Sister is they had one of those pow, look at me kind of atmospheres / appearance to them. A lot of people, when rock and roll and heavy metal were starting to put in categories, a lot of people considered them a term called glam metal or glam rock. 1984 was a unusual time for Twisted Sister. The PMRC started coming out, the Parental Musical Resource Center. There was a lot of controversy going on with Twisted Sister and their music videos and their lyrical content. Some of their most known songs, I Want to Rock and We're Not Gonna Take It, they were on the watch list from Tipper Gore, the PMRC. They saw them and viewed them differently as the fans or as the people that actually wrote them. Dee Snider, he wrote most of the lyrics. We're Not Gonna Take It was about parents yelling at their kids or trying to tell them how to live their life, because he actually had issues with that because his father, was a military man. He was kind of more strict and could not do this. Rock and roll was this and that, and he wanted to put his personal feelings in his music. And not only were kids rising up trying to say to their parents, this is my life and I'm going to live it the way I want to. It's also about, even if you're an adult and there's certain health issues you may have, or maybe someone in your family's dying or something. If there's like a obstacle in your life, you can stand up and say, we're not going to take it. That's what that music, the actual lyrical content, is about. Has a good, strong message. What I think that they saw was the actual music video. The music video, in my opinion, along with a lot of other rockers at that time, it was no more graphic or violent as a cartoon, like in Looney Tunes, Elmer Fudd, and Yosemite Sam, the bad guys, if you will. Especially the one in We're Not Gonna Take It. The music video starts out, them having dinner and kids having their head down and real kind of strict father. He is to play the bad guy because he's pushing his kids, blah blah blah, to not do certain things because he didn't like the way that they were doing them, and they didn't like rock and roll. Each time that he pushed, he got pushed back. The band members and the kids were they were trying to say, not really vocally, but in an action, say, Dad, we're not going to do it, we're standing up. And each time he would, like maybe fly out the window, or he would fall down the stairs. But thing is, like in most cartoons, he never really got hurt. There was positive messages in the music, but they wanted some comedy in the music video. And I've loved that. And the next one, I Wanna Rock, also in one of the PMRC's kind of one of the targets. That music video is just about fun. It's about fun, just because rock and roll and heavy metal has always been more of a kids kind of thing. What I mean by that is, if there's rebellion and if there's parents pushing things on their kids, or if there is anything of that nature, then there always will be rock and roll and heavy metal. There's, to an extent, there is some truth in that, because a lot of the rockers, a lot of the heavy metal, metalheads, they were young when they were first introduced to the music, and they may have been on the street because their parents worked all day, and they were not home until they went to bed, or maybe their dad just yelled at them, maybe been an alcoholic, or just did not want to be around them, and they found another thing where they don't have to be alone, because there's other people out there that has had similar experiences. Like with These Matters, We're Not Gonna Take It. There will always be people out there that can see a positive message in it, and there could be a negative message in it. And to an extent, I can too, there's a million and one ways to look at things. Eddie Ojeda, great guitarist and the most well known for Twisted Sister. He has used many guitars. The sky isn't the limit of how many guitars he's used. His personal ones that he's kind of been more attached to, and especially in all the music videos that you see most of the time, he would use a Kramer with the Floyd Rose tremolo. A super Strat body shape is what it's known as. It is called the Beretta, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, his is actually bolt-on, just like where mine is neck through, or with JJ, his is neck through, where his is a Les Paul Standard. But along, with them together, they have made a great team over the years. This is Twisted Sister, We're Not Gonna Take It. This is the opening and the actual verse. that's just a little bit of flavor of the style that Twisted Sister goes. They have a little bit of a heavier than just rock and roll, but they are a big part of the 80s, actual 80s rock and roll scene. They're not too heavy with the guitar and too heavy with the lyrics. But with that, if you really kind of want to take inspiration or work on songs or inspired by them or even do guitar covers, a lot of the riffing is designed to, especially on guitar, to work with the actual vocals to provide something distant in the background. That's why a lot of their riffs, their main verse, their choruses are a little more simple. They really don't get too technical to get to the solo, which I'm not really going to get into. I just wanted to go ahead and just do a little bit of a sample to kind of show which route they go. Just remember, they tune to standard tuning, and they just try to keep in mind that things may sound much complicated than what they are. I have had that problem over the years, and even the most experienced guitarist will do that kind of thing every once in a while, and just try not to get into a hurry to do things, because if you try to cram it down your brain, it's just like taking a test. It does not work. One of the reasons I wanted to discuss and get into Twisted Sister was because they had a mindset to where they would help kids and help people put their minds and imaginations out there, help encourage them. Because there's been a lot of people, me included, that was discouraged in high school. Not only by other students and other kids and people. It was also by teachers. I was discouraged in high school from a teacher. No names will be mentioned. But she called my guitar playing just noise. And every once in a while I tend to make just noise on guitar, and sometimes it's kind of fun and funny to do. But when you're doing something like that, when you're demonstrating something and trying to take something seriously, a teacher is supposed to promote and encourage, not discourage. I just want to take the time to say that. And everyone out there that is getting discouraged in school, if it's by teachers or by students, stand up and say, we're not going to take it. Now we're changing gears up a little bit. I'm going into a band called GNR, Guns N' Roses. They are a mixture between two bands, Hollywood Rose and LA Guns. Back in the 80s, they didn't get their start until the mid-80s, about 85. They didn't release their first album until 87. Before that, they started playing, like local clubs, local places, trying to get their name out there a little bit more, get some more experience. 1987, they released their first hit, Appetite for Destruction, and still to this date one of the best-selling albums in a short time period of the 80s, and one of the biggest punches in the stomach, so to speak, in the 80s. And I really respect a lot about Guns N' Roses. They were one of those bands that were different. There were a lot of bands, coming out at that time that were, I don't want to say the same, but similar. And there wasn't enough variety going around, and even the metal monsters, Metallica, even they said that Guns N' Roses were an edgy type of sound, something that wasn't too, something that wasn't too heavy, but something that you needed to watch out for. And they had a lot of different opinions on things. There was a lot of tension in that band, but they were kind of the rough boys of rock that some people kind of like to talk about and kind of like to say. In the 80s, they didn't get a start until, the later 80s. They put out I think maybe only 2 albums and then 2 or 3 live albums at that time. But even though it was a short amount of time, they were destined to be legends, even if it was only for a couple of years. Real big hit from the 80s. Appetite for Destruction, their first album, and some say that just like with any kind of music, the first album is always the best. I mean, I can believe that. I mean, there's some albums that surpass the first, there's some albums that don't. But over the years, even into the 90s and early 2000s, they put out great, great music. One thing that kind of really does make Guns N' Roses for me, and for a lot of other people, I'm sure, vocals. Because I mean, Axl Rose has that edgy hard rock verging into heavy metal, a good hard rock voice. That it's not supposed to be clean, it's not supposed to be too heavy, it's not supposed to be, like everyone would expect. Wanted to be something different. And like I said, there were a lot of bands at that time that wanted to sound so much like another band, or the other band they rival, so to speak. And I believe in taking inspiration from somebody, but you don't want to be too much like that person, because if you are, you're not your own musician. But that's beside the point. Axl Rose, for me, is the definition of Guns N' Roses when it comes to the vocal and lyrical standpoint. Slash and Izzy, great riffing, great metalheads, great rockers, great guitarists. They're tuned down half a step. They had a lot of different type of inspirations for guitar, especially with Slash. If I'm not mistaken, he, along with a lot of other people, took a lot of inspiration from Jimi Hendrix. Izzy and Slash, they were similar when it comes to types of guitars they used, but when it comes to the playing style, it's very different. And honestly, I mean, I could play all kind of riffing and stuff inspired by them, but I'm not Slash, I'm not Izzy. And, I mean, I'm a pretty good guitar player, but no, I just can't compare to Slash. He's one of those, not really big, show-offy, while playing guitar. He just plays guitar with that big top hat, with that curly hair, those boots. He just has a sense of humor without trying to have a sense of humor. I mean, that's just my opinion. They use both Gibson / Epiphone Les Paul, but Slash, if you notice in some of his later stuff, used a BC Rich, specifically the Mockingbird. And officially, I don't believe that he officially played it. I think he would have a selection of guitars, and when he would go on stage, just pick one up and go. I'm not going to say that for sure, but I kind of think that, I mean, that's what I would do. But they had a real good edgy sound, not only with guitar, but especially with the vocal and lyrical. And real quick, I want to do some riffing that I took a little bit of inspiration from. If I'm not mistaken, it's from their second album they put out. It's a little more along the lines closer to the heavy metal line, if that makes sense. I was inspired by that song Locomotive. Guns N' Roses may have been one of those tough rock and roll, real kind of in-your-face kind of bands, but one thing that they kind of shown is that you can be the toughest, in-your-face rocker, but everyone does have a soft side, and I want to make beautiful music. They released November Rain, they released Patience, they released Sweet Child of Mine. And the funny thing is, though, even though Sweet Child of Mine won many awards, and it really did go very high on the list of greatest songs, that's the one that Slash does not like the most. And I'm actually not sure why, but he does. Guns N' Roses has made a great mix of music. November Rain has to be one, in my list top 5 favorite ballads, if you will. And it starts off very beautiful piano, very beautiful nature, rain, November Rain. And then it kind of starts a little bit more melodic, Guitar comes in, just like with Sweet Child of Mine. And Patience. Patience is mainly an acoustic, but there's a little bit of electric in it. And I think when you balance the two, you can beat some of the greatest music, because there are certain things in acoustic that, certain sounds that you cannot get out of an electric. Even though you can go to clean channel, you can do all these effects with it. There's a certain type of tone and pitch to an acoustic. Also, at the same time, there's certain things and characteristics I like better with electric. And for me, it's a mixture of different things, and they're both beautiful instruments. I love playing acoustic as well. I do a little bit more of a different style, but they're a great way to express yourself. If you're in a heavier, harder mood, in your face, or just a softer, more beautiful, mellow mood. That's one thing that Guns N' Roses really kind of helped put out there, is that you can be a real heavy, hardcore rocker, but still love to make beautiful music. Have a universal form of music, if you will. Keeping with the melodic theme, Paradise City, with the grass is green, girls are pretty. It's a great song. It starts off on clean channel. It's mainly an electric, but if you want to, you can also use acoustic. There's something out there called electric acoustic. There are electrics that's in the acoustic body where you can, with electric acoustic, the whole point with electric acoustic, it can reach farther than just the standard acoustic. Yeah, you can hook up a microphone to your guitar and then speaker in, but you can add different effects. You can add a little bit more tone to it, if you will, or maybe a little bit more reverb. It's another good way, kind of a good combination or compromise in between electric and acoustic. But anyway, it starts off acoustic, Paradise City, acoustic or electric, if you will, but starts off overall clean and real nice. And then once the intro ends, then it turns to an electric. It turns to a kind of a good melodic intro, something that's real kind of sweet, but still, it still says, hey, I'm electric, I can play. I don't know, I'm weird. But anyway, then it starts to get kind of a little bit more drive, a little bit more nasty rocker kind of thing. It's cool. It's a real good song. It's one of those things that kind of balances clean tones with melodic and heavier riffing. That's what I love about Paradise City. I think it is actually my favorite song out of all the Guns N' Roses songs. I love Locomotive, I love November Rain, Paradise City, all of them like that. I love them just as equal, but there's something about Paradise City that just kind of gives me kind of touches me in here, if you will. Guns N' Roses has been a great band, great rockers, not just in the 80s, but through the 90s and even today. I give them a lot of credit and help keep and carry on the spirit of rock and roll. There's been a great following of not only Guns N' Roses, not only Twisted Sister, but many, many different rock and roll bands. And the 80s technically are still alive, But rock and roll and heavy metal has no time period. It could be from the 60s or it can even be into the 2060s. Rock and roll is rock and roll. Ain't noise pollution. This has been 80s Rock and Roll. Look us up on Facebook. Give us a like. It's under Bridging the Gap Music TV show.
Bridging the